Coming up on Our World, new numbers are out on the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on students and learning. We'll tell you what's being done to help students bounce back. Plus, as the midterm elections approach, there's one group of American minorities that seem to lean into Trump-like policies. We'll tell you who and why. And New York's governor signs a new bill into law designed to help older people living with HIV and AIDS. We take a closer look. Welcome to Our World, I'm Stephen Walker. A new report out shows the devastating toll of learning setbacks in America's children caused by the pandemic. Across the country, 4th and 8th graders fell behind in reading and saw their largest ever decrease in math scores. The Advocate Channel's Gabe Cohen has more on what that means for children, parents and educators.
An alarming snapshot of learning loss from the pandemic. New test results from the nation's report card show in most states, 4th and 8th graders are falling behind in reading and math. The math scores are historic, the worst decline ever recorded, with roughly 25% of 4th graders and 38% of 8th graders performing below the basic level, the lowest of the 3 achievement levels for the test. Students who were already struggling in school showed the most dramatic drop-off. Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona calling the results appalling and unacceptable.
They were isolated for a year and a half to 2 years. That's a huge, huge problem.
Michelle Burke is an 8th grade teacher on Long Island and has a daughter in 8th grade.
My daughter is struggling in math exponentially. A lot of the things that we're seeing emotionally, behaviorally, are putting a huge strain on what you're seeing in the classroom. Huge strain.
The findings come more than a month after similar results showing math and reading scores for 9-year-olds fell by a level not seen in decades. The federal government is pumping billions in relief funds into districts, requiring them to spend at least 20% on learning loss. Schools nationwide have been trying to hire more staff, but with teacher burnout and fewer new teachers, many schools face a teacher shortage, especially in rural areas and those with more low-income families and students of color.
Good afternoon. IDs, please.
At Casa Grande Union High School in Arizona, some classes have more than 70 students, and in other rooms, para-educators are teaching lessons prepared by a certified teacher.
I think of myself, I struggled with math, and if I was sitting in that classroom, I needed help, I had questions, I need somebody to break it down a different way. If there's nobody who has the content knowledge to do that, I'm going to shut down, and I'm thinking many of our students might be shutting down as well. Okay, last couple seconds.
What makes these math scores particularly tricky is that parents often feel more comfortable teaching reading than math. So teachers are crucial, and those STEM subjects are facing some of the worst teacher shortages. Districts are trying to recover, but some experts say that could take years. More than 21,000 migrants have arrived in the city since April. It's an issue that's not going away. The Advocate Channel's Boris Sanchez spoke with Latino and other voters about how the major political parties are handling immigration.
If America is so bad, if America is such a terrible country to live in, why did 50 migrants die, suffocated in a trailer, to come seek a better life in this country?
The grandson of Mexican migrants, Abraham Enriquez, says Democrats are losing support among Latino voters because their rhetoric is out of touch and that their policies allow for what he calls unrestricted immigration. He says hardline policies like those pursued by former President Donald Trump resonate with many voters like him.
I think Latinos, we don't care really much what you say. It's what are you going to do, right? So many people are tired of politicians that just speak but don't act. And for the first time, we had this political outsider that came in and spoke a lot but acted even more.
Do you feel like either party is addressing that issue well?
No. Neither party is addressing the issue well.
Immigration attorney Carlos Gomez says a sensible, balanced approach is sorely needed, but missing.
and either they talk to their base, they talk to the right, or they talk to the left, but they don't come and talk to us. They don't see what we're doing on a daily basis.
Justin Stubbs, an independent who supported Bernie Sanders in 2016, says it's the GOP that seems to be paying most attention to the border crisis.
It just seems like Republicans care and talk about more. They talk about the border issue a lot more.
Well, the immediate impact of immigration might be felt most strongly by voters here in Texas at the southern border. It's an issue that resonates all over the map, including here in Florida, where there's also a large Hispanic population and a Republican governor that's taken a hardline stance.
But this is not a policy, that's a stunt. I'm sorry. That is a stunt.
Local pro-immigration advocate Maria Corina Vegas says leaders like Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott try to win votes by demonizing outsiders.
And that's what populists do, effectively.
But the Venezuelan American warns the long-term cost could be devastating.
I never thought I would see that in this country. I saw that in my country. It tore my country apart. And it doesn't matter if it comes from the right or from the left. It's anti-democratic.
For Cuban-born entrepreneur Julio Cabrera, the issue of immigration is tied to the economy.
This country moves because the immigrants and Latinos.
16 years ago, Cabrera says he was robbed at gunpoint by criminals in Mexico while trying to seek asylum at the southern border with his daughter. Today, he's a successful restaurateur in Miami. The American dream, Cabrera says, would be impossible without immigrants. So he's turned off by what he calls incendiary rhetoric.
Everybody is immigrant here, and we have done something remarkable for the community.
Younger voters like Marvin Tapia, a Colombian American who lives in Miami's Little Havana, argue that demographic change is a blessing that more politicians should embrace.
We're sharing a country built on immigrants, and we should kind of be proud of that we evolve and we grow and we change. You know, things can't change, can't stay the same forever. I believe that growth is pivotal to the growth of a country, especially like the U.S. We should learn from it instead of run from it.
With early voting already underway in many states, the Latino vote could prove pivotal. Already in Florida, nearly 1 million ballots have been cast. The question remains, will this rightward trend in the Latino community continue?
Growing old is a concern for all of us, especially for our LGBTQ seniors and those living with HIV or AIDS. But in New York, they've realised that not everyone is getting the help they need. That's why Governor Kathy Hochul has signed a new law geared at helping those who suffer disproportionately from poverty and isolation to have more access to more services. I spoke with Christopher Wiggins, senior national reporter with Advocate.com, to explain how this action will help meet the needs of certain New Yorkers. Hi Christopher, thank you for joining us. So last week, New York's governor signed a new law that affects access to services for older LGBTQ New Yorkers. So what is it that Governor Hochul did to improve their lives?
So the governor expanded access to a 1965 law called the Older Americans Act. And essentially what she did was make people who had the greatest social need eligible for services, and the redefinition of what greatest social need was. Previously, that included things like having Alzheimer's and kind of being isolated because of medical needs or financial needs. And now this has been expanded to include LGBTQ people and people living with HIV, because they tend not to have access to services when they grow older.
Wow, and they had to grow up in a time with such great stigma. And growing older is challenging for everyone, but for LGBTQ people particularly. Can you explain why that is?
Well, you know, LGBTQ people historically have not had children. And as we age, generally we need kids to take care of us. So, you know, another thing is that LGBT Americans, as they age, have felt a lot of stigma and rejection in services, and the government services that they didn't really know about previously tended not to really want to provide them with those accesses. So it's kind of been a difficult situation for them as far as having grown old in an environment where those services weren't necessarily available. And so this now makes that so.
And it just breaks my heart. These are the trailblazers. We need to be taking care of our old folks. And with the midterms just 2 weeks away, why is an expansion like this so significant?
Well, you know, the midterms have shown us, if nothing else, that right now LGBTQ people are under attack by Republicans. And, you know, right now, this kind of expansion shows that there's support on other levels for the LGBTQ community. And this is reinforcing the notion that LGBTQ lives exist, they matter, and that they need to be acknowledged as such.
Yeah, being acknowledged is very important. Thank you, Christopher Wiggins, Senior National Reporter for theadvocate.com, for joining me. I appreciate it and keep up the good work. I really do enjoy reading this story.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Take care. Bye-bye now. Thank you for joining us for Our World. The Advocate channel is streaming now on Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, and Android TV. You can also download our app on your Android and Apple devices.